Okay, so to week 2 of ADHD Awareness Month, and this week we're concentrating on young people and in education specifically. So when we think of ADHD, we often talk about distractions, impulsivity, procrastination, but rarely do we talk about its deeper, more hidden impact on our body image, eating habits, and relationship with fitness. Young people with ADHD often experience emotional intensity, black and white thinking, and a heightened sensitivity to rejection. These traits can fuel a dangerous drive for perfection and control, especially in a world obsessed with beauty and productivity. So in this conversation, I'll be speaking with ANITA BHAGWANDAS, author of Ugly: Why the World Became Beauty Obsessed and How to Break Free. And also we're going to be speaking to Jenny Tomei, personal trainer, an eating disorder coach, to unpack how ADHD intersects with body image struggles, and more importantly, how it can support young people to break free. So I'll start with you, Anita, and thanks again for taking the time to come and speak with us. So your amazing book explores society's obsession with beauty. Why do you think ADHDers, particularly young women, are more vulnerable to this pressure?
I think they're more vulnerable for lots of reasons, but I think the biggest one is that we are sort of naturally predisposed to having a sort of lower sense of self-esteem that we then try and bolster through appearance. You know, if we look good, then hopefully we might feel good. If we look good, we might fit in into our societies where we sometimes don't feel like we do fit in. So I think it can really help bolster our self-esteem. That's what we think anyway, but actually the reality is that we're always chasing something that chasing a beauty standard that is so hard to reach because it just doesn't exist. And I think because we do have a tendency towards perfectionism and black and white thinking, it does feel all consuming at times. You know, if I definitely personally had periods where I have felt unable to leave the house because I didn't look a certain way, or I definitely felt like that as a teenager as well. My appearance consumed everything. And if I didn't feel like I looked 100%, then I would have a terrible day and it would cloud my entire being. So I think it can have a really big impact on us.
Thank you. And that's obviously a big reason why you wrote this book in
Yes.
particular. It was born from what exactly?
All of those experiences growing up and feeling like I didn't belong and I didn't fit in because of the way I looked, all of which I think was probably heightened by having ADHD as well.
Yeah, that rejection sensitive dysphoria, isn't it? It's that causes that perfectionism, people pleasing, and avoidance, though. And that's, I guess, what you're saying in terms of not wanting to leave the house because if you didn't feel as, good enough, right? Then you avoid literally what living really. Like if you're staying in the house, we're withdrawing. So many, and it's not just the young people, a lot of adults, a lot of women, same thing, right?
Yeah.
Can't go out of the house, haven't put my face on. Yeah, and that means that they're not, interacting, socializing, just getting out in the world. It's
Yeah. And it means that we're attaching our appearance, our self-esteem and our confidence to the way we look. And I think that's probably the worst thing for us.
Yeah, so it's good. It's interesting because we've got Jenny on the other, Jenny here, not on the other side, obviously, because same approach and importance, right? To obviously take a healthy approach to beauty and fitness. But Jenny, from your experience, how can the ADHD brain's impulsivity, hyperfocus, and emotional dysregulation contribute to disordered eating or over-exercising?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great question. There's so much to that. Obviously, if someone, ADHD hyperfocus, if they're overstimulated, they're not registering their hunger cues, and then they sort of start over exercising, they can end up in a really, really unhealthy, vicious cycle. And that's something that I ended up in. That's why I do what I do. And the kind of the dopamine hit that you get from the exercise. And, I was going for a lot of the time, didn't want to face my strong emotions. So the exercise was a way for me to navigate those emotions. But because they were so strong, I just ended up sort of into that over exercising and that addiction with that. And I can see why people with ADHD fall into that because I work with a lot of patients who struggle with anorexia. And funny enough, they struggle with the exercise, and I get a lot of parents coming to me saying that, can you help my daughter get back into a healthy relationship with exercise that's non-obsessive? Because it's the obsession and the addiction to it. And it's taken many years for me to get to a healthy place with the exercise. And if I don't want to exercise, then I don't, and I don't feel guilty for that. And I don't, if I'm stressed, maybe I'll go for a walk, turn it down a bit, rather than going on a 10-mile run, which is what I used to do. So I've learned how to, and it's just teaching young people those skills on how to recognize those emotions, understand them, knowing it's okay to feel that way. And yeah, again, it's emotional resilience at the end of the day, and kind of early intervention around it. And when someone's over exercising as well, especially if they've got an eating disorder and there's a lot of adrenaline and they're under eating, the body produces more adrenaline when someone's under eating. So again, it's that addiction to the adrenaline, the dopamine, and then it's just very hard to get out of. So you can see how someone can get stuck in that so easily. And again, the black and white thinking as well. That's why I work on kind of flexible thinking with young people when it comes to exercise and their diet now as well. And if you add medication on top, sometimes ADHD medication suppresses the appetite. So I don't recommend that for someone who's had a history, who's had an eating disorder or anorexia, because I just think that is not suitable.
That's a very good point. Yeah, definitely. Medication, first taking it. Yeah, I remember when I started first taking it, I didn't realize that I was looking for dopamine. All my friends were eating salads and things. I was looking for carbs, before I got diagnosed, because I was looking, the dopamine hit the food, the carbs. And then once I got motivated, that just went. I didn't need it anymore. So yeah.
Okay.
And I lost quite a lot of weight at the beginning, actually. Someone on Facebook even was one of my friends was, "Are you okay, Stephanie?" Because I think, I was quite bony. But then I adjusted. Now it's not a problem. But yeah, certainly you're right.
Yeah. That's why a lot of people with ADHD, not only they don't just struggle with anorexia, they struggle with binge eating disorder as well, because of the dopamine from the food and the hit and the sugar, and it's that feel good that they get from the food. And again, it's a very addictive cycle, and it's hard to break a habit, for them. So it's just small little changes over time.
Yeah, the balance is elusive. But so for both of you, there's a fine line between self-care and self-punishment when it comes to fitness and food. So how can we help young people with ADHD spot when they've crossed it? So Jenny, I guess for that's the fitness.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say when there starts to be this disordered eating comes in, they're skipping meals and they're worrying about if they're worrying about shape or their weight, then it starts to become a mild eating disorder. If their eating has become slightly disordered, they're stressed, they're anxious, they don't want to eat, then it's kind of intervening at that point, right? And kind of getting it early, what's going on. Noticing the signs early, if they're worried about calories, or they've started exercising after their meals as well. That's a big one. Eating in secret, not wanting to eat in front of others.
Yeah, it's not good. So being aware of those signs. So and where can parents go, by the way, Jenny? Obviously you, in terms of if they're spotting these things.
Yeah, so the GenUp website, so genup.com has toolkits for parents on early intervention. So all the toolkits are free for parents, teachers, so they're all funded. So they're just free to download, so you can download that as well. So all the information's on the website, and then we've got a podcast as well on Spotify called GenUp Podcast. So there's information on that as well, and it's free.
Fantastic. Yeah, and we'll put the details in the comments section so people can go to that. Yeah, it's so important. Anita, so in terms of back to beauty, you talk about breaking free in your book, Ugly, from toxic beauty standards. What's the first mindset shift an ADHD can make to start that process?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the first step is probably just almost slowing down, which I think is the hardest thing for a lot of us, and just recognizing all of those sort of subconscious messages that we're giving ourselves. So it might be, for example, I don't know, if you do, say, miss a gym session, the way that you might beat yourself up, or if you do, I don't know, if you've maybe you've got some spots and the way that makes you feel. It's just slowing down and noticing when those messages are coming through and kind of what you're telling yourself. Because I think quite often autopilot, and I say this as someone who does this, I go at 100 miles an hour. I'm on autopilot. I don't always register the things I'm telling myself. And then when I slow down and catch myself, I'm like, wow, I'm actually speaking myself really badly. I'm telling myself I don't look very good. I'm telling myself I'm lazy because I missed a gym class because I slept terribly, or whatever. It's all of those things. So I think it is just really slowing down and almost keeping a bit of a log on your phone and just being like, oh wow, spoke to myself really badly when I did this, or when I, was putting my makeup on, or any of those things. Just slow down and notice those things. And I think that's the first step to them realizing what's going on and then working to shift those behaviors.
And that's really, really good advice. Like you said, yeah, you've got to name it to tame it, like we say in coaching. And like you said as well, it's really hard for ADHDers to slow down and get perspective of any kind.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not easy. But yeah, definitely that first mindset shift is really important. So Jenny, what are some practical ways schools or parents can better support young people with ADHD who are showing signs of poor body image or disordered eating? So practical ways for schools and parents.
Yeah, I mean, for parents, like if a young person started to have concerns around their body image, I would ask them, when did they first start to think that, like what's happened? Did someone say someone at school? Has it been from social media? Even like one comment, can set someone off, especially if they're super sensitive, or if they're autistic as well, and they've been fat shamed, that can really spiral someone down the wrong way. So just checking in with them and kind of, and if they are watching social media, like what are they actually watching on there? What content have they liked? Because as soon as you like content on there, it gets pushed your way. And just talking about making sure parents are talking about their body in a positive way themselves, like saying, I love my body because it's strong, it allows me to walk, and do all these things, so it's taking the appearance element away from it and expressing what their body allows for them to do on a daily basis and re-emphasizing that. And that's quite a nice exercise to do, and practicing things like gratitude is really good.
Yeah, so that
I always recommend that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point as well. They say modeling is the pathway to power, and unfortunately, parents and we're not shaming or guilt tripping any parents here, particularly if you happen to have ADHD as well. Like many ADHD is probably not even aware you're even saying it out loud, right? So, but again, it's
Yeah,
catching yourself, like what Anita said. Hang on, what am I saying?
exactly. And just kind of, because people with ADHD tend to hyperfixate on like parts of their bodies, especially if they're bloated and like kind of things like that. So it's just kind of just understanding that and knowing, just thinking about your language a little bit more around your body. That's all. Like, and then for schools, I think, it's just changing, the narrative of like trying to teach it in class. And that's what I'm doing in schools, right? And kind of trying to help young kids to, take away the appearance element, appreciate what their body does, or, just having open conversations about it, and teachers just understanding their language and how they speak about their own bodies and how that affects the students as well. So I think it's just being mindful of it.
But not, yeah, again, it's that balance, being mindful, but not too mindful. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, black or white thinking. Us ADHD is a kind of, we're all in or all out. That's the other issue, right? So it's like, usually, particularly the workaholic type ADHD is not even aware they have a body, get hyper focused, don't go
Yeah.
to the toilet. You see the young ones, with their legs going because they actually need to go, but they're just so caught up, in whatever they're doing. They're just ignoring their body. And then you got the others, like you said,
Yeah.
hypersensitive to their bodies, and the bloating, for instance, the sensory, feel really
Yeah.
uncomfortable, hate this, can't think of anything else. Yeah, it's really tough.
Yeah, a lot of autistics, like the bloating and the kind of the senses, especially if they've got like gut issues, they're very sensitive to the gut and kind of so hypersensitives. There's a lot that goes on with that, and ignoring the body thing. I did that for years, so and I learnt my lesson with that. So I have to like, if I cannot actually ignore my body anymore, it won't let me do it. I literally have to listen to my body now, like otherwise it's just not good for me.
Like if you've pushed yourself too hard, you mean, so like if you're exercising
Yeah,
too hard, you mean,
yeah,
yeah. Whereas
exactly.
again, it's about pulling people back into the middle, because then you've got like the workaholic types that don't
Yeah.
the body doesn't call to them to like move. Like I'm unfortunately that type of HDer that for me to go to the gym and move, it's like, Stephanie, come on, get up and do something. Whereas your type of ADHD and others are like, I have to get out, I have to move, I have to run. And it's like the
Yeah.
two ends of it's like, Stephanie.
Yeah, and there's different spectrums, isn't it? Like I scored pretty high on my hyperactivity, whereas you got like the kind of the other side, the inattentive and kind of, and just, I get really restless. So, but that when I got my diagnosis, it explained that the kind of the needing to be on the go, the overexercising, it explained my history and why it was so hard for me to recover because the ADHD exacerbated all my symptoms and basically heightened them. So,
It's tough. And that's why it's really, hopefully today we're giving a really good impression and picture to people
yeah.
listening about why this is such a problem for ADHD as young people and
Yeah.
to adulthood as well. And it's
Yeah,
about
definitely.
understanding and getting that support 'cause it's not easy to do on your own. So we often hear about healthy habits, but for someone with ADHD, routine is hard. Although, as you were saying, Jen, if you've got autism, sometimes the problem is actually getting out of routine. But how can ADHDs build a sustainable kind of approach to health? So both of you, kind of what would your recommendation be? How would someone with ADHD, knowing all of this, approach this in a healthy way somehow?
I think, yeah, I'm someone who really struggles with routines and rituals and sticking to anything. Um, so I think it is about creating routines that have a bit of flexibility in them for when things pop up. But also trying to find a bit of joy in those things. So, I think quite a lot of people end up, particularly in schools, etc., get pushed into things like athletics and running. I know that I never enjoyed any of those things. And actually, if I'd been encouraged more into sport or like something like that, I probably would have had a better relationship with physical exercise. So I think it's like leaning where you can into the things that you enjoy rather than things that feel like a punishment or, make you feel necessarily like worse about yourself potentially. Um, and also, I guess alongside that is finding joy in food. And so trying to sort of step away from seeing it as, carbs and protein and this and that, and seeing it as, I don't know, like enjoying the experience of cooking, enjoying, where how food grows, enjoying sort of creating interesting meals with different tastes and textures that you enjoy. I think that has made a big difference to me as an adult. And I think if I'd had that as a child, it would have helped me more to understand that food is a source of pleasure and joy and nourishment as well as being, fuel, etc.
Wow. Jenny, what would you say?
Yeah, I definitely agree what Anita said, and kind of, for me, it's, I hear a lot from people with ADHD saying that they struggle with things like, their hunger cues or eating enough, especially with the medication involved. And I sort of say to them, if you're not, eating properly and nourishing your body allows you to do all the things that you need to do within your life, whether that's, go to work, socialize, run a business. Like I know myself, if I didn't eat properly, I couldn't run a business. So for me, that was kind of like I need to like take care of my body because if I don't take care of my own body, how am I going to help others?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So that approach, which we always in coaching as well, we know we can do things for others that we can't do for ourselves. So whichever way you need to motivate yourself to prioritize that kind of self-care, yeah, you lean into that, which I just kind of heard you say in terms
yeah,
of I've got to be able to, help others. And so I must, kind of, I'm not going to run that mile or how many miles we said you're going to do, and being able to put the brakes on from that perspective. Yeah, which is something, whatever way you can do it. And Anita, in terms of obviously, in terms of beauty and obsession with beauty, what you're talking about earlier, if you could give one message to a young person with ADHD currently battling this type of issue, what would it be? Apart from buy this book, obviously, guys, because this is an awesome book on Amazon. So we'll put a link on in the chat as well in the comments.
Yeah, the one message, I think it's just to remember that your appearance is the least interesting thing about you. And I think that we quite often, I think from an early age, can fixate on our appearance being everything, and it really isn't. And I think that kind of applies across the board. Your appearance is literally the least important thing about you. I think that's probably the most important thing we should all know. And it's everything else about you that's interesting. The appearance is not it because it will change over the years, and you cannot attach your self-esteem to it. otherwise it's like a recipe for misery. So I think that is the most important thing.
That's such a powerful message. Such a powerful message, yeah. And Jenny, what about you in terms of what one message to a young person with ADHD currently battling their body in terms of, the fitness, doing too much, what would it be?
I'd understand the importance of rest days. Like that's really important, and it's good to rest. Like it's not a bad thing, and understanding that your body needs rest, and kind of thinking about, if you overtrain your body, what use is that body? And understanding that, you just what's going to happen inevitably, you're going to burn out, then what? So it's about, just training your body in a healthy way, appreciating what it does for you. That's what I try and do now because I took my body for granted. So that's what I say to young people, don't do that, You only have one body, respect it.
So true. And again, something ADHDers struggle with, particularly those, that do burn out. The only time we tend to rest is when we've got no more choice, and the body literally tells us, no more, not doing anymore, and then it shuts us down and can shut us down in a
Yeah.
really bad way, and we don't want to do anything that's irreversible that you can't recover from, right?
Exactly, yeah. And it can affect things like your hormones as well, especially for women. And it's understanding that and kind of, it's hormonal balance as you get older is it's not easy. So
Thank you. Honestly, thank you so much. It's such an important topic, and we need to be speaking about this more, obviously, with our young people in schools. So again, parents, buy this book, Ugly, by Anita on Amazon, and share some of these myths to bust them, and schools as well, incorporating into the PSHE these type of lessons that Jenny can teach these children. And again, I'll provide the link at the bottom so that you can get in touch with Jenny too. But yeah, it's so important, particularly with the neurodiversity, that's at schools as well, and particularly that ADHD mixed with the autism. So important for everyone to understand, what's at stake, and shift that mindset and change their relationship to these things so that it's, coming from a place of kindness and compassion, which is something is pretty elusive for us ADHDers naturally. So we all kind of need each other as well, that community, the body doubling, right, to help us get there and stay out of our own way. So thank you guys.
no
And
worries.
yeah, we'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.